Welcome back to another episode of Freeform AI. My name is Michael, and I do data engineering and machine learning at Databricks. Today, I'm not joined by my co-host. He is swamped with on-call, and it's very, very sad. But he'll make it through and hopefully enjoy his weekend. And today, we're speaking with Heather. Heather, I'm really excited to chat. A little bit of background: Heather started her career in consulting. And she took a variety of different roles in several areas of expertise. I don't want to list them all here because there were too many. And then about 10 years ago, she pivoted to specialize in Salesforce, eventually serving on the advisory board for the EMEA go-to-market. And currently she works on, again, a bunch of different things, but her primary focus is Supermums, which is a training firm focused on data, AI, and also Salesforce. So Heather, getting right into it, it seems like you have a lot of projects going on. I'm curious how you think about diversifying versus focusing between your 50 different things.
Interesting. Well, I think it's the life of a CEO, isn't it, really? You kind of get that variety of understanding and learning and leaning in, but not necessarily doing the doing in all of those different areas. I really enjoy, I think, still helping businesses to grow. So I do some business coaching with Salesforce consultancies right now. And also I provide career advice and deliver training on consultancy skills with some of our Supermum trainees who are women who are upskilling in Salesforce technology, but also learning those key skills around business analysis, project management, agile project management, and change management, and supporting them on their journey. And I think, as I say, with referencing back to a CEO, sometimes you can be very strategic and sort of operating at that level and not in touch with your client groups and not helping people on the ground. And what I've found previously, because I have run a business before, is I lost my sense of purpose not doing anything that was directly with customers, not feeling like I was actually helping people and having that direct interaction. So it's really important for me to have those pulse points where I get that love of my job. I mean, I do love all aspects of my job, but actually working with individuals, working with businesses on that one to one and making time for that in my portfolio is really important to kind of give me that sense of purpose. And also building relationships with customers directly, and sort of having, say, that direct impact and that value, because I feel that that is what stands you in a good position for long term. And then the rest of my role now is helping my team to perform, supporting them, looking at the strategy of the company, and adding value and empowering them to do their job better. So, it's kind of a whole mix of what I do now. But I think everything that I do now is built on what I've done before. Like, I think through every business I've run, through every role I've had, you learn what your superpowers are and you start to delegate things that you don't like. And, you can continue to add value and to learn, right, and evolve.
Got it. Okay. So just entertaining this a little bit more. I often struggle with finding continuity and cohesiveness with all the disparate tasks that I have to do. And it sounds like you don't find them jarring at all. They like add up to the same whole. They're different pieces of the same pie. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I have a day structure, right? So Tuesdays is my delivery day with people. Wednesdays I'm typically out in London, like networking and meeting people and doing sales effectively. Mondays are internal management meeting. So I think if you block out your time and you have different days for different things, I'm quite structured in a routine because I have my kids half the week. So I know that I need to be at home or do things those times. So I think it's just structuring things, because I think if all those things were merged in and there was no structure each week, it would be quite chaotic.
Got it. For the listeners out there, do you have any tips on how they can structure their day similar? Because I do the same thing. Tuesdays, no meetings, no matter how important it is, so that I can be focused and hopefully writing code. But how do you approach that conversation with a manager or a colleague where they might need your help urgently?
Yeah, you know what? We've just done this. So we're going through our own AI roadmap transformation as an organization, and we're reviewing all our processes again. We're looking at all the tasks that people are doing, what can be automated. We've called it Project Sunrise, and everybody's really excited about it because they all want to get some time back and use AI automation to improve, to get rid of stuff they don't like and start to improve and produce more. But actually, that's what we've been doing, is looking at productivity and efficiency in our roles. And I've got them all to done what do they do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? What is it that they do? What could be automated through AI? What is it that they need to free up time for? And just analyze it. And I've similar to you, Michael, like I block out my time, half days where I don't have any time for meetings. I block out, and I can do more deep thinking time or get back to emails even. So it really helps. And we've done that with the team. We're doing it now because I think we all want to work more efficiently, right? We all want to finish on time, but it does take that time to do it. And I started doing that analysis of my time every quarter and sort of say, right, what's working for me, what's not working for me, and being quite intentional about structuring my days differently.
Got it. So taking a step back, analyzing your time, figuring out where your time is going, and then potentially removing inefficient uses. But how do you handle the social aspect? Like you're a CEO, no one's going to tell you no. What if I'm a junior engineer? Like, how do I manage that?
In terms of so your response to whether you can have meetings or not. One of the ideas, we're working with an AI consultant, and he said actually, as an organisation wide, you have that time where no internal meetings can be structured. So actually, all internal meetings were done before 10 or after 3 in the afternoon, but actually the rest of the time is all client meetings. So I think it's better to structure it. As a CEO, I've told my team, think about how you can do things differently. So it does help if there's that organization wide kind of process and thought around this. But I think if you're a junior, sort of trying, well, how do I influence this upwards? Is, take those ideas. When I was in my 20s, I went to my directors and said, look, could we do a CPD program, like a continual learning program for everybody? And we launched all these lunchtime sessions and continued and added value. So I think if you see these opportunities, you listen to this, take these ideas back to the company and present them, because that's actually what gets you noticed.
Okay, that makes sense. So just sort of bringing it up to leadership, seeing if they can create systematic change throughout the team.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That makes sense. And on that note, one of my tips is just do it and see if people complain loud enough.
Yeah.
Typically, like people don't care. If you get to them end of day versus within 5 minutes, it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes there are very urgent things like on call, but typically it's not that important.
Well, people don't know what your diary is, right? I mean, they
Yeah,
don't
or
know that
that.
you're not in meetings. If you block it out, they can't see it. So I use Calendly. So
Yeah.
anybody internally, like in my team, and anybody externally booking through Calendly and the slots I've made available, and that's all they can see.
Yeah. So you've been working on Supermoms for about 9 years now, and I'm curious over the past 9 years, how has the face of training changed? Is it probably not AI at the beginning and now it is AI? So what's the timeline been?
Yeah, interesting. So with Salesforce, I mean, Salesforce as a technology and their platforms evolve massively, and obviously they keep acquiring more products. So I started with the product back in the day where there was 4 certifications. It was, the traditional interface. It was kind of easy to learn, whereas now you will your oyster. There's lots of different career paths and avenues you can go down. The actual delivery of the training has stayed the same a lot for us, because we created a structured training program to support mums to relaunch their careers successfully. The principles of our structure have stayed the same. We deliver a 3-hour live training course each week, which means people show up, they've got a time and a date. There's a cohort, so they create incredible friendship groups in these cohorts and communities. It's really lovely. And they're on this journey together. And off the back of the live training, they have homework they can do. They meet with a one-to-one mentor each week. And that one-to-one mentor completes and ticks off their homework for them to verify that they can, they've done the task, they've supported them if they haven't quite got it. And so you've got that structure and accountability for completion. After 3 months, they've done the training. We then structure month 4 for doing their certification and getting that done. Again, a deadline is helpful. If you're going to college or education training, having that structure where they're doing the certification, makes you intentional and sort of focuses the mind to do it. And so we created this structure, which, as I would say, has always been the same. The only thing that's shifted really is some of the content creation. So, as I say, Salesforce has really now introduced AI, Agentforce. They've embedded that in the curriculum. So we evolve and update the curriculum according to that. We've got multiple training courses that support people to become the AI expert. So they can do Data Cloud, they can do Tableau, they can do Agentforce training. We support people from the start to then progress, keep progressing their learning. We do it all virtually though. I mean, obviously that's really important for our community group is that they can't necessarily get into a classroom 5 days a week and be there. So the training's stretched out and it's in bite-sized chunks. So it's 16 hours a week. So you can digest the learning and not be overwhelmed because I think when you're on a training course for 5 days, you don't absorb all that information and you're not really sort of practicing that muscle memory. Whereas with our training, you do 3 hours of learning the competency, then you spend the rest of the 13 hours practicing it, doing it over and over again in different ways through the homework, through some trailheads, and it reinforces the learning. So I think that's what we encourage, within we deliver training in companies, we encourage them to do the same format because you want somebody to be successful from learning their training to applying it and sort of obviously using it in the workplace. But it's the content that's shifting and that's keeping up to date with where the times are and the technology that's changing.
Yeah. Okay, like 15 questions. First one. So what's the current like hottest things to learn and what's sort of on the horizon? I assume that like AI is the buzzword, right? But it's a technology that's used for business cases. So what's the sort of middle ground? Are you learning tech stacks? Are you learning companies? Are you learning do thing with AI? Like what are you actually teaching?
Yeah, so the three sort of different angles to AI in our Supermum's world. One is training people to be AI leaders. How do you develop an AI roadmap for an organization? And that's really focusing on the business analysis skills, the change management skills, thinking about the governance and everything like that. So that's a new course that we're launching next year.
Whoa, that's super cool. Like what are some of the submodules out of curiosity?
Well, they're broken down into all sorts of things. So one is gathering requirements, coming up with the use case, the business case. The other is governance, for example, and making sure that you're creating this secure environment for people. The rest is then looking at all the different use cases for sales, operations, marketing, and what some of the typical tools might be that you might use within those areas. And so it kind of looks at that whole as I sort of mentioned at Supermums, we've got this Project Sunrise where we're doing all this ourselves. So it's allowing people to think through all those different structures of doing that. But to help people do that and to do it efficiently, the sort of second strand is making sure we're producing AI first business analysts and AI first project managers. Because if you're working as a BA, you want to make sure you're as efficient as possible and you're showing up to an interview saying, well, look, I use these AI tools and I'll get stuff done in twice the time, right? Compared to a BA that's not embraced AI yet. And I was speaking to some Salesforce consultancies yesterday who, have adopted AI for business analysis. Like it blows our mind. We can get stuff done so much quicker. And he said, we're not letting people go, but we're not going to scale all the staff that we need because we actually don't need as many staff as we thought because we're using AI now. So I think being competitive as a BA or as a project manager, we're upskilling people. So I deliver this consultancy skills course, and what I'm embedding in that is all the AI tools that you could use to look at. So we don't just recommend one, we'll look at a few and look at what does AI look like in that role. And then the third strand of AI is about how do you build agents for companies. So we operate within the Salesforce stack at the moment. So we train people on Agentforce, which is their key product. We might diversify into different agents beyond that going forward. Depends on different technology at the moment. That's kind of where we focus because that's our sweet spot. So that's what AI looks like in our world is, and as a Salesforce admin, sorry, as well, how do you do Salesforce admin tasks, the technology tasks, because people are using ChatGPT for coding, for example, or Claude for coding now, or Gemini, sorry, for building code. So it's about also training our technical skill, our technical learners in some of those tricks as well.
Yeah. All right, 7 more questions. But before that, it's super funny. You mentioned that I'm currently working with the AI for deployed engineers and working with their management staff to basically improve our Salesforce processes because right now they're pretty janky.
Right.
And so what we've done is we've basically uploaded a bunch of tables via ETL into a Databricks workspace because it's the tech stack that the company knows best. And then we're building on top of that basically. But I've been I just started working on this. It's a new area like in the Salesforce world, but it seems like there should be better options within that stack. So I'll definitely check out agents. But yeah, any other like super high ROI tools for Salesforce? And I guess specifically for the use case of resource management. So they're all billable people, and typically we try to staff them at about 40 hours on a variety of projects, standard consulting model.
Mm.
and managing those time cards and like who's available, who's not, why did they drop, connecting them with external things like statements of work that are typically in Google Drive. Like all that interconnectivity and staffing can be really challenging.
Oh, you
Any
should look at
tips?
Certinia.
All right, adding it to the list.
It used to be Financial Force, and now it's called Certinia, but it is
Cool.
made for that type of work.
Yeah, we're bearish on Financial Force, unfortunately, but I'm not quite sure why. But okay, great. I will check it out. So you mentioned that the analysts in your example are not hiring more people because they're more productive. Do you see a fear in the industry that people are getting replaced?
So it's not that they're not going to hire more people, but in his words, he was like, we were planning to scale to 200 people, but we won't need as many people now because of the efficiencies that we can achieve. So, jobs, I think there's loads of job opportunities in that every business is going to have to embrace AI in some shape or form going forward. Right? I don't think there's that capacity to be left behind. So there's meant to be 2 trillion investment by businesses in AI, of which 80% of companies are going to have to acquire skills or upskill their talent in AI. So a lot more businesses are going to be needing professionals who can help them embrace technology, and particularly AI, and embed it. So I think there's over 10 million jobs predicted in AI, probably more than that by the World Economic Forum. So it's not that there's going to be a decline in jobs, because I think there's going to be a lot more job opportunities coming up because all these companies are going to go, oh God, we've got to get on this bandwagon. What do we do? And we need somebody to help. I think what we're going to see though is that consultancies that might have scaled are going to scale in a different way. They won't take on as many resources, but there will be more projects. So that's weighing up that there might be more projects to work on, but they might need less people for that project that came in. But I think they're going to definitely be hiring people who can give them the most efficiencies, and obviously those that are open to AI and using AI. Previously I ran a consultancy. They didn't like systems. And so if you've got people that aren't on this road to AI, they're going to be left behind, because it's more traditional approach will be replaced.
Okay, interesting. Why Supermoms? Why the name?
So I pivoted as a mum into Salesforce. I was running a business coaching company, and the funding streams that we used were dried up. So I was like, oh God, what do I do now? I had just got married, I was going to have a baby. And I'd been using Salesforce for the nonprofit I was running at the time, and felt that I just explored the career opportunities and launched. So I launched my Salesforce career as a Salesforce freelance consultant, and I was earning good day rates, working remotely, baby at home, did it for 4 years. And I'd see a lot of other mums around me, not in jobs, or in lower skilled jobs because they didn't know about career opportunities that existed. And I just thought, well, I'm doing this. I've retaught myself, didn't have any background in tech whatsoever, and thought, well, actually, other mums could do it. So just decided to put it out there. My background was business and career coaching. So I'd helped a lot of people into work and starting up businesses previously, and just set up a one page, launched the Super Mums model because it was all about helping mums get back into work, find flexible, well paid careers, bridge that gender equality with pay gap as well, because it is a well paid role. So it sort of hit various points, and just really wanted to help mums find out about these career opportunities and bring them into the light, if you like. So yeah, 9 years on, we've had 1,800 people go through the program, and you always feel like a proud parent. You see them out at the industry events, walking around in their new jobs now, and I just get so much lovely feedback. Like one of the husbands came over to me at this event yesterday, and he's like, "I just want to thank you for helping my wife and all these other women." And I just get such lovely feedback from everybody about how we've helped change their lives and given them, something that they're meaningful about. And we get men that join us as well on the program. It's not just mums, we don't discriminate, but actually the men that join us really, really are behind the brand and the mission. They get it, they understand it, they've had a wife in that situation. And so yeah, it's very rewarding. And we help a lot of women sort of get their career back on track.
Yeah, that's incredible work. I'm curious. It definitely serves to brand and sort of focus on your target demographic. But you mentioned, or at least you hinted at a couple areas where it actually might be structurally different in terms of what you would teach. For instance, handling pay gap or things like that. So I'm curious, For the mom's demographic who are looking to relaunch their career, how would a training program like that differ? Like, what do you focus on specifically for those people?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background was designing sort of programs to help people back into employment before I did my business coaching business. So I kind of knew all the ingredients that were necessary because I'd be evaluating a lot of these programs. And so I've sort of touched on the training program. The training is very structured. It's got one-to-one support, hand holding that person all the way through. They've got a one-to-one mentor. They've got the deadlines. They've got the accountability. They've got the group peer support. So a lot of the mums have made friends with each other and they meet up and they chat and it's amazing. They've got all this, other people on that journey like them is very different. They don't feel isolated. There were 60 of us at a Salesforce event yesterday. They're not going by themselves and going, "Oh, I don't know anybody," like probably won't even go. They're all meeting up together. And so creating that community spirit, creating that one-to-one guidance, creating that accountability deadlines are really important. We also deliver career coaching and advice. So we help them update their LinkedIn profile. We help them review their CV, think about their superpowers and how they resell themselves. And we have the recruitment side to our business. So we do engage with employers who want to bring more women into their workplace, or get more diverse CVs. Obviously, we'd always represent every candidate for a company and we put forward any gender that wants to go forward. But typically these companies in the tech space are seeing that they're not getting enough female CVs. I spoke to one company yesterday that had no female CVs for this role, and I was like, I can help, because only 26% of women, in the tech space, 26% are women, right? There isn't a lot of talent out there. So we have a large talent pool of women, and companies want to make sure that they're sourcing from diverse sources and getting, a good diversity at interview. And it's not just women, it's, ethnic minority, it's disability, it's all sorts of things that these companies look at. But yeah, there's a real reason for our mission and what we do. And there's definitely a very tailored approach to how we get somebody from A to Z.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, in my prior team, I think we had 3 out of 40 women.
Wow.
And in this current team, we recently did a big hiring round, so it's a bit different, but the ratio wasn't, it was better, but not a ton better.
Mm.
So I definitely know what you're talking about. How do you see organizations navigating this? Because there's sort of a balance of almost like prioritizing someone for something that is outside of the job description and the skills, but it's also important. So is it sort of hush under the table? Are they explicit, like we are looking at 50% women ratio by 2030? Like, how do you see organizations framing this?
Yeah, so I think that's slightly different. It's a sort of not the what you how you've just worded that isn't really the reality of the lens. Quite often these companies haven't advertised out through all the different avenues they could to get a diverse CV range. So the reason companies will use us is because, okay, well, Supermoms has got a larger pool of women. Obviously, we won't just put women forward because we attract a whole range to our job roles. We will advertise our job roles, but they come to us because they know we do have obviously a large female following. So a company should be intentional about how and where they source CVs to make sure they've got a diverse range of CVs to select from in the first place. And then obviously you're going to shortlist and go through that process. But the other thing, and again, conversations I've had with companies, is it's really important you get a diverse range of people screening the CVs and also interviewing. Because if you've got a very male dominant interview board, there's going to be bias there. So it's important that one, you source CVs. Two is that you can anonymize the CV, so you don't necessarily know if what the gender is. You get an interview panel that is diverse as well, so it's representing that, and that gives a better chance. We have a resource on our website which talks through the 40 steps you can do to attract, retain female talent. Like there's lots of things you can do, but they're just simple examples.
What do you think companies fail to do typically?
I think, well, one is not, reach out and get CVs. They go through their normal sources, word of mouth, recommendation. I mean, I know that that's quite often how people get jobs, but if they're wanting to be intentional about improving the diversity of their team, because that's known to be better for companies broadly and how they operate with customers and everything else, you need to be a bit more intentional about how you might source and get the best person for those roles. I think if there's a large percentage of male in a team, they might not have the diversity on the interview panel. So how can they bring somebody else in externally to support that? Can they bring in an external HR person or somebody from other teams to support and give a different perspective? So I think it's just about having a fair process rather than, oh, I'm just bringing my mate in the back door. That's going to be the difference, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. But what about on the retention side?
So on the retention side, it's very much about making sure that you've got inclusive work practices. I mean, I've felt this, and even as a female-owned business, I've had a hybrid business where I've had an office and virtual, and now we're all virtual at Supermums. But it's making sure that people feel, particularly in a hybrid environment, that women who might come into the office less still feel heard and seen and have the equal opportunities that people in the office will have. It is really hard to do that and create that, right? Because it's a completely different camaraderie in the office to, with people working virtually. So it's creating opportunities for meetups, both virtually, socially, and in the office, making somebody feel part of that. It's also looking at flexible, how you can create flexible work opportunities, job shares, for example. Again, talking to another customer, they didn't have flexible policy. It's like, you must be in the office 5 days. And somebody was come back from maternity leave. She's like, I just want to work 3 days. And the immediate answer was no. And the people in the team fought for it and changed it around. Equally, one of our supermoms that's gone to a company got them to change their policies. So I think it's worth, going back to my earlier point, like, it's always worth standing up and saying something and trying to shift perspectives, because that's the only way that we're going to create a culture, when you feel that there's value there for retaining, obviously, the talent in the company.
Got it. That's super interesting. And for the super mums angle, it sounds like you primarily focus on training, but do you also consult with organizations as well so they can institute these policies?
So we're not an expert in the consultation of policies. We do have this 40-step plan, but we will work with companies that want to hire talent, and obviously advise them on some of the recruitment practices they can do to make sure they are getting that sort of, they're not discriminating in any way, and supporting them, but not rewriting policies. But there are plenty of organisations that definitely do that.
And then before we kicked off the recording, we were chatting and discussing sort of the two-step process for super mums, which is like, first and foremost, inspire to take action, and then secondarily, support that action. I'm curious, what does inspiring to take action look like for the super mums model? Like, because
Yeah.
theoretically, getting a new job is super fun and exciting, but how do you add to that motivation?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think, we put out there that, the mission is we can help you secure a flexible, well paid job, right? People go, oh, is that a scam?
Yeah,
You
that
have
sounds
no
pretty damn good
idea.
to me.
Right, yeah, but then people worry about that. People will, there's different reactions from different people. Some people are like, oh, yeah, let me find out more. Other people are like, oh, well, it's another role that's going to make me, telling me I can make money, but I've got to give over 2 grand for a course. So you're juggling that and getting the message over. So we do a relaunch your career masterclass, which is all about how do you relaunch your career successfully? How do you resell your transferable skills? We help people figure out their superpowers. We explain the different careers in tech, and I give them a quiz. And the quiz asks 10 questions that looks at their personal attributes as an individual. It could be with their family, it could be with friends. But based on their personal attributes, it tells them what job they'd be great at. And I won't go into the full quiz now, but if you are that type of mum, for example, that is very organized, loves like planning everything, delegating, maybe does volunteer events, organizing socials, you'd be a great project manager. So we look at their personal traits and help them think about, well, which job would be relevant for me. And there is a job for everybody, basically. It pops out an answer for everybody based on their personal attributes. And then what we do is give them a free access to a free Salesforce beginners course, which is a 2-hour course where they can just practice and go, well, actually, okay, let me try this and see if I like it, see if it makes sense to me. And they can just work through that. And then we share case studies. So women that have pivoted, we've had people who are florists, diamond retailers. We've had people who've come from more of a tech background or have worked in corporate finance, got a lot of finance people at the moment. And so we help create these case studies, share case studies of people similar like them, teachers as well, and we help them translate. So all these things give them that confidence and assurance if it's the right thing for them. And then if they do after that, then they can obviously sign up and sort of take the next step.
Yeah, think at least from my very small personal perspective, I think adding structure is often a really great way to motivate because
Mm,
if you think about it, there's sort of an activation energy to doing something. And on one side, you could have a ton of energy and overcome something hard, or you can make the hard thing easier. And by providing that structure, you make the hard thing easier, give sort of set tracks, and make it less daunting. So that makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. You also mentioned community, though. How do you guys build community beyond like meetups?
Question. So we have online communities. So people join a cohort. We have cohorts every quarter. They show up for training sessions every week, but they also set up little WhatsApp groups between them, which isn't actually led by us because we want them to feel that they can talk amongst themselves without us monitoring them. But we do set up a group for them on Slack, which is more communication around the training and everything else. So off the back of that, they tend to support each other, help each other with the homework, and sort of get to sort of know each other on that basis. And then we have three different ways that they can connect. So we have a LinkedIn group where they can find each other on LinkedIn and build connections that way, and they can start to celebrate their achievements on LinkedIn and like it and comment it, so they build their profile. Again, we have another group on Slack and WhatsApp, which is the international group, if you like. So we've had a third of our trainees in the USA. We've got a big portion in the UK. We've got them all across Europe, and we've had some in Australia. We've just gone completely global with Supermums, and people connect all over the world. And we've got a lot of people who have moved countries. So we've got a lot of people who Latin America who are in Spain now doing the course, and we've got so many nationalities in the UK and the USA, people who've moved from India over here and have relaunched their career. So they also connect on that community of interest as well, or their background. And so we foster those connections. Say we have in-person events, which we do, but obviously because we've got such an international community, it's sort of, the events don't meet for everybody's needs.
Right. That makes sense. And do you see that inspiring action or supporting the action more? Probably both, right?
Inspiring and supporting. I mean, when we all met at the event yesterday, they all came, got together. We had various points throughout the day where they could meet us or connect with other people. And, they all went off to different training sessions and all came back together, and we all had like a Christmas drink afterwards. And so there's, inspiration and support all within that. Like, it's really lovely.
Loves a Christmas drink,
We all had our Christmas hats on.
as you should. Okay, cool. There was one final topic that I wanted to chat through, which is more about you and your background. You've taken a variety of different roles. You've navigated, it seems like, many transitions, all with a lot of common themes, but it seems like you've tried a bunch of different things. So I'm curious, like in your career, how have you thought about navigating? Has there been a North Star? Has there been something that you always look for or always avoid? Because a lot of listeners are doing the exact same thing. I'm doing the exact same thing of navigating our careers. So do you have sort of tangible advice that people could leverage?
North Star is social entrepreneurship. Always, when I was at uni, I learned about businesses that have a social impact and mission, but they're run as a business. And I was like, that's me. Because I'd always made stuff for charity, like for church and charities, made it and sold it. And I never made any money out of that. I always gave the money away. But it was like, oh, that's me. I can only do something if I'm helping people. And that's why I said it's really important that I feel like I'm helping people personally, because that is my need. I know can't help every person on their journey achieve XYZ. There's a team of us that do that, but I've always been driven by social entrepreneurship. So I've run three social enterprises now. I worked as a consultancy, designing and developing strategies to help people into employment and start businesses. That's where I started for the first 5 years. Then I ran a coaching company that provided business and career coaching to 18 to 30-year-olds. And we worked with 10,000 young people during that time, which was all funded through government funding streams. And then I ran a Salesforce consultancy that worked with nonprofits. And we worked with over 350 nonprofits on 700 projects to help them improve the efficiency and donation, fundraising and marketing and volunteer management. I love supporting nonprofits. And then Supermum spun out of that organisation. I forgot to mention the work experience actually. With all the Supermums, they get placed out in a nonprofit to do Salesforce work experience. So we've given 39,000 hours of free pro bono support to nonprofits through our Supermum volunteers. which helps them get their work experience on their CV. So as well as getting mums back into work, we also obviously still have that triple impact with the non-profits as well. So I need that social mission, but I think that the businesses have always come because of my own personal experience. I've felt it, I've seen it myself and gone, okay, there's a missing gap here, we could do something about it.
That makes sense. And so you leverage your current state or your current skill set and use that as a jumping off point to the next thing you see. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think you do see those opportunities, but it has to time with a passion as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm currently the tech lead for Databricks for Good, which is grassroots initiative for doing pro bono services for nonprofits.
Amazing.
So very near and dear to my heart as well. And yeah, getting creative about these types of synergies, like upskilling and contributing free work to a nonprofit is such a nice synergy. And we've seen really a lot of success with it because managers like it, nonprofits like it. No one's like scrutinizing too hard and it generally works. So that
Oh,
makes
that's
a lot of
brilliant.
sense.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. So we're coming up on time. I will quickly summarize and then kick it over to you for any follow-ups. But really interesting conversation, and it's a nice change of pace from all the tech stuff we usually are talking about. One tangible tip for productivity is structuring your calendar and protecting your time. First, really helpful to do reflections, and then second, once you have those areas of inefficiencies, just try to block off time to negate those inefficiencies. And typically, managers and colleagues won't care that much. Just mark it as busy. For your CV, when you're doing hiring, make sure you're getting diverse CVs and then also make sure the interviewers themselves are diverse, both in background and thought style. And then for career, Heather has leveraged sort of social entrepreneurship as her North Star. So finding your North Star can be really helpful, but also if you don't have a North Star, using your current state as a jumping off point to future areas of interest is really, really helpful. So Heather, if people want to learn more about you or Supermoms, where should they go?
No, that's a great synopsis. Thank you, Michael. So we have a website, supermoms.org, where you can find out all about what we do, and we'd love to hear from you. There's a free download on there. The free courses are under the resources area, so if you want to check it out and find more, we get referred lots of sisters, mums, aunties, grandmas that come through the program as well. So always happy to hear from anybody who's got any questions. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was a fun one. Until next time, it's been Michael Burke, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.